Hi, everyone, and welcome to Publishers on Air. My name is Gigi Grimes, and I'm a marketing specialist here at Google. Today, we're going to walk through News Consumer Insights 2.0. News Consumer Insights, or NCI, is a free tool designed to help publishers just like you better understand your site visitors and grow your revenue. Have you ever wondered who your site visitors were and which of those visitors were your loyal readers versus your more casual readers? Have you ever wondered how you can optimize and grow your average revenue per user? And are you looking for data-informed recommendations to improve engagement on your site or to drive casual readers towards becoming a loyal reader? Have you ever felt overwhelmed with data from analytics and felt unsure about how to transform that data into actionable, practical insights? Well, Google NCI can help you answer all of these questions and grow your business. It's important to note that although news is in the name, NCI is a tool that's useful for all types of publishers and digital content creators. NCI analyzes your Google Analytics data, makes it digestible, and provides actionable recommendations to inform your next steps. Essentially, it takes all the heavy lifting out of data analysis and provides you data-informed recommendations to improve your reader engagement and reader revenue. Some of you might already be familiar with News Consumer Insights, but we're very happy to announce our new and improved 2.0 version, which is packed with new features that were formed by hours and hours of working directly with publishers just like you. Before we get started, let's introduce our speakers for today's training. Val, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Hope you're all safe and well. My name is Valentin Cornez, and I'm the co-founder of News Consumer Insights. With my team, we basically build free tools and data framework for the news industry. We are part of the Google News Initiative. So I'm very excited to be with you all today and to share more about the tools. Very excited.
Awesome. Thanks, Val. Let's go ahead and introduce our next speaker, Nicole.
Hi, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. My name is Nicole Rocchio. I'm an account manager that also works with Val on the News Consumer Insights tool for publishers in North America. We're super excited to get started today and show you this new tool version. So let's go. Let's get started.
Awesome. Thanks, Nicole. Now, before we get started, I just want to cover a few things about this session. Val and Nicole will walk through the NCI interface to show you how each new component works. You can ask questions at any point throughout the training by clicking that blue Ask a Question button to submit your question. We'll address as many questions as possible at the end of the training, and if we don't get to them, we'll try to reply via comment. So now let's jump into the training, and I'll pass it over to Val to kick it off.
All right, so I'd like to kick off our session with the following news business breakdown. For a long time, news publishers have built their business model with the revenue coming from their advertising partnership, talking about display ads, video ads on their sites. Lately, we started to see more and more publishers launching reader revenue models such as subscription, contribution, affiliation to diversify their revenue streams. And to develop those models, they've been optimizing key areas, like their ad strategy, for example, trying to maximize the value of each ad impression, or even their pricing strategy, packaging strategy as well for their subscription and membership businesses. But when you think of it, to truly achieve long-term revenue growth, it all comes back to a few fundamental metrics. Publishers need to grow their ad impression and page views in order to get more advertising inventory, or even build loyalty and emotional bond to get their users to convert to subscribe. This loyalty is a key proxy for any kind of consumer revenue strategy. And all these metrics that you're seeing here are results of one common topic, reader engagement. And by reader engagement, what I'm truly talking about is visit depth and visit frequency. Reader engagement is the cornerstone of how our team is supporting news publishers. So how do we help? Well, we've built a series of free tools to help publishers grow reader engagement by turning data into actionable recommendation. We build News Tagging Guide, NTG, which allows publishers to maximize the value of Google Analytics and optimize data collection. Real-time Content Insights, RCI, which helps newsrooms make better decisions for their content creation and distribution strategies. And finally, News Consumer Insights, NCI, which aims at helping news and magazine publishers grow loyalty and their subscription. You can access those tools on goo.gle/datatools. Before we discuss News Consumer Insight, I'd like to briefly talk about News Tagging Guide. So News Tagging Guide is a new tool. It has been designed to help news publishers make the most of GA by defining the engagement metrics that matter for audience and revenue growth. This free tool allows news publication easily identify the most important audience behavior to measure. We are also simplifying technical implementation because in the tool you will find specific tags to implement on your site. And finally, when you implement those tags on your site, you will collect that data and you'll be able to generate new insights in GA. In close collaboration with the news industry, we've identified a lot of metrics once again, and those are available in the tool. And we've segmented those behaviors and metrics into 3 categories. Video analytics, which is where you will find tags to help you better measure the consumption of your videos on your site. User engagement, where you will find all those behaviors you need to track that are related to loyalty. I'm talking about newsletter sign up, scroll depth, social sharing, etc., etc. Finally, reader revenue, which is a module that we've developed for all those reader revenue models that we've discussed. So subscription, contribution, affiliation. We've identified all the behaviors that will help you get more revenue there. This is an example of tag that you will find in the tool. This is the NTG video tag. And just by copy-pasting that tag on your site, once again, you'll be able to collect that data and get new type of information. While NTG can be used on its own, we designed the tool as a companion to NCI and RCI. The new engagement data measured in GA unlocks actually new insights in NCI and RCI 2.0. So, which brings us to the focus of today, NCI. To give you a bit of context, we launched NCI in 2018, and the goal then was to help news publishers make data-driven business decisions to increase profitability and build deeper relationship with their readers. We were thrilled by the reception of the tool. We got a lot of visits. We have a lot of case studies. I will invite you to visit our site and check those case studies. We've covered a lot of topics with them. And we've even received some awards and some nominations for the tool. Today, we're delighted, obviously, to introduce our new version of NCI, which includes more personalized recommendation, more insights on reader revenue and video, and finally, more value metrics, new metrics that we were not covering before. I'm talking about advertising revenue and average revenue per user. So enough with the slides. Let's walk through the UI and see what we're talking about. So this is NCI. NCI has been designed with simplicity in mind. It's completely free to use. And the only thing you need to use the tool is an email address associated with your Google Analytics account. So how do we navigate the NCI front end? Well, it's pretty simple. You just need to authorize the tool to get access to your Google Analytics account. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to show you how you do it. And that's simple. Here, you just need to select your Google Analytics account. You will only see, obviously, your Google Analytics account appearing there since you have your email address associated with it. So once you have actually connected with your GA account, the whole report will populate based on your GA data. You will see on the left-hand side 4 tabs: Actionable Recommendation, Reader Engagement, Reader Revenue, and Video Insights. Let's take a closer look at Actionable Recommendation tab, which is the home page of the tool. Actionable Recommendation tab is actually the most important page of the report. We are starting to talk about, at the top of the page, your funnel. What we've done is we've segmented your audience into 3 buckets: your casual readers, your loyal readers, and your brand lovers. A casual reader is someone who's been once on the site over the last 30 days. A loyal reader is someone who's been between 2 and 14 times on your site over the last 30 days. And finally, a brand lover is someone who has been more than 15 times on the site over the last 30 days. You can actually download those segments in your Geo account just by clicking here. So what's the goal here? Well, we want to see and want to show you how each audience segment contributes in terms of value, in terms of page views and ad revenue. So let's take a look at this publisher. This is live demo data, just to give you an example. For that publisher, 80% of the audience are casual readers. they generate 20% of the total page views and 15% of total ad revenue. Let's look at the brand lovers. They represent only 1% of the total audience, right? It's a very small portion of the traffic, but they generate 20% of the page views and 20% of the total ad revenue. So what does it tell us? It tells us that as a publisher, if you start seeing this kind of metric, you should actually optimize that funnel. You should transform a casual readers into loyal readers and the loyal readers into brand lovers, because the end of the funnel is where the value is actually from a page view point of view, from an advertising point of view. You will notice on the left-hand side, this kind of card in the report. We call it the top light insight card. This is where we customize the insight based on what we're seeing in your GA account. Let's read it together. For that publisher, I'm talking to the publisher right now. Your loyal readers and brand lovers represent 20% of your audience. They drive 80% of your page views and 85% of your total ad revenue. So I'm just doing the sum here. You need to grow your reader engagement to push your casual readers down the funnel. So this is kind of the starting point. Once again, you need to optimize that funnel because that's where the value is, and that's how you build a sustainable business. So now the question is how to do so. Well, this is where the magic happens. We have NCI is a decision engine. It's a new tool that is built on top of GA, and once you connect your GA data, we will analyze that data, we will digest that data, and based on what we're seeing in your GA account, we're going to populate for you recommendation to optimize your funnel. So we're going to start with reader engagement. We're going to give you a lot of recommendation on how to improve reader engagement and get users down the funnel. The number that you're seeing here is dynamic. Right now for that publisher, it's 8, but it could be 5, could be 2. This number will change based on your GA data. So let's take a look at that publisher. So 8 recommendations to help you improve reader engagement. On the reader engagement topic, we've devised the conversation on 2 subcategories. You need more visits and you need longer visits. So let's take a look at those recommendations. Your newsletter traffic is low. You should offer web push notification. You're missing news article structure data. You need to amplify your social presence, and so on and so on. Your page load time is high, etc. So once again, all those recommendations are being populated based on what we see in your GA account. It's good to share, obviously, recommendation like that, but as you know, as a publisher, you need to go beyond that. You need to have them actionable. So what we've done is when you click on each recommendation, you will access a specific card. We populate a card with a set of best practices to actually improve your site and get better results. In this card, you will see a set of best practices. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And those are very actionable. We believe that we've managed to identify what needs to happen to really have an impact on that specific topic. For example, for newsletter, we believe that it's all about the visibility and position of your newsletter sign-up widgets. And it's also around reducing the friction, right? You don't want to have multiple fields to get your users to sign up to your newsletter. It's also about the look and feel. You don't want to have something hidden or something that doesn't have contrast. You want this newsletter sign up to stand out compared to the rest of your content. And finally, personalize the message. Very important. There are still publishers who are just asking their users to subscribe to their newsletter. Here, it's about to showcase the value, why they should subscribe to your newsletter. On the right-hand side of that card, you will always find an illustration. It's either a GIF or just an image. But it's a great way for you to already visualize what type of implementation we're talking about. In that card also, you will find that Learn More button. Very important. If you are interested in that topic and you want to go deeper, you just need to click on that button. And this is what will happen. Instead of just pushing you to a playbook, we're going to push you to a specific chapter of that playbook. We're going to push you to that newsletter chapter, for example. And the format of our one sheeter, if we can call it like that, is always the same. We're going to tell you why it matters, why you should focus on that specific topic. We're going to, again, reiterate on those best practices, so what you should be focusing on. And we're going to give you more comments and observations, things that you should consider to really maximize your approach, optimize your approach on that specific topic. If you go to the next page for that chapter, you will see best-in-class examples. So we're going to give you more flavor, more examples of what's working well in the industry on that specific topic. So for example, for newsletter, we're talking about full screen takeover, anchor format, or lightbox prompt to get users to subscribe to the newsletter. So coming back to that first page, as you can see here, we have a lot of recommendation, and for each recommendation, we have a card that can populate based on what we see in your Geo account. In this case, for recirculation, for example, we give you an illustration of the ideal design of a recirculation widget, and so on and so on. And this is just on reader engagement, right? This will help you get the users down the funnel, getting them to have more visits and longer visits. But if you go down, you start seeing that we have another topic that we like to cover, which is reader revenue. This number is also dynamic. Those recommendations are also dynamic, and we're going to populate them once again based on your GL account. So let's take a look at them. 7 recommendations to help you improve reader revenue. You are a subscription publisher, you have a subscription business, and this is the type of recommendation that you will see. You will need to optimize your marketing messages. So just by clicking here, you will see once again those best processes to optimize your marketing messages on your site. And you will have similar type of recommendation for the subscription landing page, for the checkout flow, for the even for the ad revenue piece. Finally, a third topic that we like to cover on that page is how to get better data. And you will see that this is the point where we start talking about MTG. So there is a strong correlation, like a lot of conversation going on between news tagging guide and news consumer insights. Every time you implement an NTG tag, you will generate new reports in News Consumer Insights. So this is where we tell you what type of tags you need to implement to really maximize the value of that report. Just by implementing those different tags, you will access new insights and recommendations. If you implement, obviously, those tags, you won't see this recommendation to appear. You might see only, for example, you might see only scroll depth because you would have implemented the NTG video tag. So that's pretty much it. That's the first page. In an ideal world, you would just visit that page, look at the recommendation, implement the recommendation, and activate those recommendations. But sometimes that's not enough. We know that publishers and everyone is curious here, so you might be wondering why actually we're sharing those recommendations. So this is why we have those other insights tab, right? We're going to show you in those tabs more insights that will back up our recommendation, why we are pushing those specific recommendations to you. And with that said, I will leave it to Nicole to talk about the reader engagement tab.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Val. So walking into the reader engagement tab here that you can see, essentially engagement can vastly be different based off of where your readers are coming from and kind of like why you should analyze both the quality and the volume of those traffic sources. So we've created a custom grouping of the referral traffic for you to identify like your performance gaps throughout these reader engagements. And so scrolling down here, you want to pay close attention to those gaps between your audience segments that we have on the graphs. And so each page view is an opportunity to increase loyalty, generate advertising, and figure out where you should be spending your resources. As Val had walked through before, we have our casual readers, our loyal readers, and our brand lovers based off of how frequently users are coming to your site. And so what we want to look at first is our reader personas here in that first part of the graph. So when we're looking at our reader personas, we want to notice maybe if there's any differences or if they're similar throughout the entire funnel. And then it'll also indicate down here if they're using mobile, if they're using desktop or tablet, where those users are coming from. What you want to understand with this graph is making sure that you understand your audience, you know what they look like, and potentially if that is what you want them to look like. As we continue to move through this funnel, we'll then also take a look at percentage of total readers in each category and segment. And so what's interesting to note here is that if we take a look at our brand lovers segment on the right-hand side, we'll see that 60% of your readers are creating 75% of your page views. It's something to consider when you're trying to understand the different audience segments that you have on your site and where you want to continue to build your strategy, either around recirculation or creating new content, and understanding maybe like the differences between each of those audience segments as you move forward. The red arrows here also indicate the comparison of your data from the previous month. So up here, we're showing the last 30 days. Now you are able to toggle through and create the last 60 and the last 90 because that was some feedback that we heard from the first time that we created this tool. And what you'll be able to do then is see the comparison from that previous set of data. So we're down 2.7% this month than we were the previous month. Continuing down through this funnel, we'll now look at our average ad revenue per user. And so this is something that Val talked a little bit about before, but essentially if you are connected through your Google Analytics 360, your average revenue per user can be calculated here in the funnel. If you don't have this ability, we'll actually be able to come up here to the settings here and you'll be able to input your average CPM. And then once you're able to add in whatever you'd like, then you'll be able to save that. And then it'll continue to populate then how much you're making per user across your funnel segments. And so here, then it'll let you know the total ad revenue that is coming from each of those segments, as well as looking at the ad block rate percentage. And then if we also jump over to the left-hand side of the graph here, this is one of those top-line insights that we discussed before, where it's pulling information from your data to better understand like where you could potentially go for a recommendation. And so reading this through with you both is pay close attention to the gaps in visit frequency and depth across reader segments. So your brand lovers ad revenue per user, or ARPU, is 98 times higher on average than your casual readers. So that's just something to keep in mind again, as you look through this data, understand if that's what you're looking for, if that's what you want. As we continue to scroll down here, then we'll also capture visits per reader, average visit length, pages per visit, average scroll depth, and then total pages read per user. Looking at these metrics across your different audience segments will also help you understand their behavior. If there's an average visit length that is really short in comparison to, let's say, your brand lovers over here, which is really long, understanding that sort of information will help you target better actions for each of those segments moving forward. And we will continue to scroll down here through our funnel. And then what will populate here is talking a little bit about your social networks. And so what we're saying here is only 10% of your readers have shared an article on social networks across their visits. And so what we have been doing is trying to better understand like where your readers are coming from and which traffic source may be the most valuable. And so as we scroll, it will show that engagement can be different based on where those readers are coming from, which is why you want to understand not only the quality of the traffic, but also the volume of your traffic. We've created a custom grouping to identify those gaps or understand your performance in each of the categories. And what you want to do is focus your efforts on acquiring more highly valuable readers. And so that average revenue per user or pages per reader access and improving the behavior of those main traffic sources. So looking at the graph here, just to kind of better understand, we'll see where those bubbles appear, and then it'll let you know your traffic percentage as well as your ad revenue per user. Now, something that we have created for this one is that dark traffic bubble here. And so for those of you who are familiar with dark traffic, it is that some users are wrongly assigned as direct traffic when Google Analytics is not able to identify the visit source. And so we identify them in our NCI tool here as users who come to your site directly, but didn't land on your homepage. So if someone sent an article link through WhatsApp and someone clicked on that and came to your site, sort of information. And then what we'll do here is we'll look over on the left-hand side for the top line insight. Newsletters and push notifications are amongst your most valuable traffic sources. You should invest in signing up more readers to each of those. And so what that will then do is we'll use this tool to then dive into a deeper recommendation on how to create more users within those segments. And then continuing to scroll down, we talk about one of our favorite things here is page speed. We have this indicator that will show you if you are in the red, yellow, or green. This demo data is showing us that it is taking 9.3 seconds for your page load time. The one important thing that we want to call out or mention here is that essentially your casual readers are the ones that will pay most attention to your page load time. And so we have noticed is that 50% of your readers will abandon a site if it takes more than 3 seconds to load. So if you're trying to really bring in more of those casual readers, you want to pay attention to that page speed and really try to work on bringing that down, which is we'll be able to address more in the actionable recommendations from this audit. As we continue down, we want to look at how your readers are performing compared to other organizations in general. And so what we've done is we've aggregated and curated our Google Analytics data from all of the organizations that have been using the tool that we've been working with to create an industry benchmark, essentially, to understand your key engagement metrics. And so what we've done is we've created something called a reader engagement score to help you assess the overall engagement of your audience. And so what it is looking at here is if we scroll down, we'll take a look at your loyal readers and brand lovers in one chart. And then if we continue to scroll down, you will see your casual readers in another chart. Looking through here, you'll look at overall performance, and then it also will break down into mobile and desktop and tablet. So looking at this overall performance right now, we understand how many readers in general are loyal and brand lovers. And then if we scroll a little bit further, it breaks it down into your mobile and then your desktop and tablet with the high overarching themes and ideas here. And so what it's showing us is that we have a reader engagement score of 43 on mobile, and then we have a reader engagement score of 75 on desktop. And so what we're showing is that they're a little less engaged on your mobile platform. If we want to do a deep dive to better understand why exactly that might be happening, we'll click here on mobile and we'll scroll down. And so what it's showing us is that we have that 43 out of 100, and then it will show us for this reader engagement score how exactly we're getting to that 43. So there are 4 different things that we measure: visits per reader, pages read per visit, visit length, and then total pages read per user. And so essentially we'll break it down into each graph here, as you note. And what it'll tell you is where, if you're around the average, what the average number is, and then best in class and what that best in class number is as well. And so what this is showing you is essentially where you can improve and where we can potentially bring more users into that segment. If you look on the right-hand side of this information, we'll also show you your most valuable traffic sources. And so for this example, Twitter is our most valuable traffic source at 28% of your readers. And so something that you want to consider about or consider and talk with your team through is making sure that those platforms that are bringing in your most amount of readers are also engaging with those readers the way that they should be. If we scroll back up and we want to take a look at desktop and tablet, it will show you the exact same information and potentially different traffic sources. That's also something that you would like to note. And then looking over here on that left-hand side, back to the top line insight, prioritize growing visits and recirculation to improve the engagement. And then as we continue down, this is the casual readers graph that I was mentioning. It's showing the exact same information as those loyal and brand lovers, breaking it down both into mobile and into desktop as well. And then as we continue down here, that is the end of this page for your reader insights. And so what we're going to do now is pass it back to Val, and he's going to discuss with you all about reader revenue.
All right. So one thing I wanted to mention on the whole report and the reader engagement, reader revenue is you might see in the report some red labels that say that's missing the NTG tag. So for example, average scroll depth, you might not get the metrics straight away. To access some of the metrics, you will need to implement the NTG tag, right? So we have an NTG tag for scroll depth, for example. We have an NTG tag for ad block rate. So you should implement additional tags from NTG to access the full report that you're seeing on this screen. Just wanted to make sure we're on the same page here. All right, so let's talk about reader revenue. Most of you are thinking or are already developed some new revenue models like subscription, contribution, affiliation. So we wanted to provide some value here and some reports to help you support those models. On this page, which will only populate if you have a Go Analytics goal implemented. all you need to do is go to your settings tab and select a goal, a Google Analytics goal that you have in your account. And we'll assume that for this case, this is a subscription goal that you have set up. And all you will see in that report will be related to those users who are converting, right? I'm talking about subscription goal, but it could be a membership conversion goal. It could be a user sign-up goal. Here, the whole point is to provide conversion rate optimization opportunities. So about those converters, the more we can share about who are those converters and how they perform, the better. If you don't have any goals implemented in your GA account for your conversions, you can still access our recommendation for subscription and membership by clicking on one of those links. There will be a link appearing there that will redirect you to the actionable recommendation page, and you will access those recommendations straight away. But if you're still interested in those insights, you should implement GA goals and activate them in this report. So let's take a look at the report. At the top of the page, we're still showing you some information about your funnel, so your casual readers, your loyal readers, and your brand owners. And on the right-hand side, you will see this new module, which are your new converters. So those who have converted on this specific goal. So for example, subscription conversion. And we're going to give you information about the profile of those users, right? If they're women or men, their age group, their device, their traffic source. This will give you a good understanding of what's the average profile of readers, of converters on your site. Also, we do have, if you go down, the ability to see how many converters we're talking about over the last 30 days, how many page views they generate, the value of those users, so what's the average revenue per users, what's the total ad revenue generated by those, and again, at the user engagement level. So it gets interesting when you start comparing your converters with your other segments, right? So you can do that just by clicking on those segments and checking the comparisons. And you might notice that your converters, for example, for subscription, their profile is very close to your brand owners. And this will, again, reinforce this idea that the end of the funnel is the one who will convert at the end of the day. It's also interesting to look at these metrics, especially those ones in particular, the user engagement level metrics, so that you can potentially segment those users and retarget users who have similar profile. If you notice that your subscribers, your converters for subscription have an average pages per visit of like 2 or 3, you might want to create another segments of users who've consumed that many page views and retarget those users on your site or outside your site with some specific ad campaigns. Now let's go down. That's where we start bringing more information about conversions. You will see there the total number of completion for that specific goal and the conversion rate, right? So what's the average conversion rate on your site for that goal? And we're going to break down that information per device. So how many completion per device and what's the conversion rate? For this specific publisher, it looks like their mobile conversion rate is 7 times higher than desktop. And it's actually usually the opposite. The desktop conversion rate is way better than mobile. But this will tell us that potentially that publisher needs to do a better job on their subscription landing page on desktop, for example. This is already a great idea, a great information about where you should be spending most of your time on. If you go down, you will notice that this time we've looked at your conversion rate and your conversions per traffic source. So we are segmenting your converters per traffic source. The green bar will be the volume of conversions, right? And the red line will be the conversion rate. Here you can notice that affiliate traffic doesn't have a lot of conversion, right? It's actually pretty low compared to, for example, to organic search. But the conversion rate is pretty high. So what does it tell us? It tells us that what you're doing with your affiliation business, it's working well. You should do more. You should get even more users coming from your affiliation business to get them to convert. And same for organic search, right? Or direct. Let's look at direct. You're getting a lot of conversions coming from direct, but the conversion rate could be even higher compared to organic search. So this tells us that users coming directly to your site, you might want to optimize your marketing campaigns and offer them some discounts, for example. if you go down, you will notice that specific table. I think that's my favorite table of that page. That's where we've actually segmented your audience into very small audiences based on traffic source, device, and reader type. So very quickly, just by looking at this graph, you will notice who are those specific users who drive most of your conversions, and who are those users where the conversion rate is super high, but you don't get enough of them, right? And just by looking at that graph, you will see where you should spend your time in terms of audience development. So which users you really want to grow, which audience you really want to grow, and potentially which user experience you want to optimize for certain users. Potentially you get a lot of users coming from social, but the conversion rate is super low. So potentially this will tell you, oh, for users coming from social on desktop or on mobile, I might want to change the experience. Potentially pushing them to subscribe to the newsletter, for example, instead of just subscribing to the site, because we all know that the propensity level is way lower there. So this will give you a lot of insights, just the level of subscription and the conversion rate. And finally, on that report, we start talking about surveys. We have to talk about surveys. It's actually the only product we talk about in this tool because it's free. It's free. You can implement it on your site. Why do we talk about surveys in reader revenue report? It's because that for every reader revenue strategy, you need to collect feedback. You need to collect feedback to set up the right strategy. It could be a survey around what type of expected benefits you should have on your site for your subscription, what's the perception of your brand. This type of information is important and can only be found if you use a market research tool like Google Surveys. So this is just an example. If you want to implement the survey solution, you can click here, similar to other top-like insight card. It will redirect you to the first page and will show you some information about the tool. So yeah, that's pretty much it for reader revenue. Keep that in mind. If you have a subscription, membership, affiliation business, you should set up a goal and then select that goal here, and you will get a lot of cool information. And obviously, every information and every insight will be interesting, and you should also check our actionable recommendation page, that specific part of the report where we're going to give you a lot of cool best practices. So with that being said, I'd like to pass it over to Nicole, who will talk about video insights.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Val. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the video insights now, and we're really excited to announce the launch of the new video section in this version of our NCI tool. And so the section of the tool does require the news tagging guide, as we have mentioned before. So it's the news tagging guide video insights component, which will allow you to transfer your video player's data to Google Analytics for us to analyze in the news consumer insights tool. So all information can be found in the playbook in the settings section in order for you to figure out how to implement that tag. And note that the video tags that we have been built for most used video players from the industry. So you should be able to most likely find your video player there. And if not, you can absolutely reach out with questions. So once the video consumption data is available, you'll be able to analyze how your audience segments are interacting with your videos. So video starts, videos completed, average watch time, and overall video recirculation. And similar to the reader revenue tab, if you don't have the NTG video tag implemented yet and you wish to see our recommendations, you will be given an option to populate them in the actionable recommendations tab. So what exactly is the video insights page about? Our video framework focuses on highlighting the insights that will allow you to maximize video starts and video completions, which are critical to grow your reader loyalty and ad revenue. So let's take a closer look here at the top of the page. And what you'll see is that we will look at your casual readers versus your loyal readers and your brand lovers, as in the other segments of this tool, to better understand what those segments are showing us. And so looking down here, we'll start with the readers percentage of total again. And then, so your percentage of readers that are from your casual, loyal, and brand lovers. And then right below that, it looks at those video users. So 50% of those, so around 140K, and then looking at how many videos they started, 450K for this example here with our data. What it's showing here as our top line insight on the left-hand side is that loyal readers and brand lovers are representing 56% of video consumption on your site and watch on average 50% of your videos. As we continue to scroll through, we'll look at that average watch time and completion rate now for your users, as well as total videos watched. And so we're looking at the completion rate of a video from start to finish, and then how many videos they've actually watched per user. If you continue to scroll down, we'll actually also show consumption behavior and drop off. And so what this will show is where exactly your video potentially dropped off, how well your users were engaged throughout that video, and then, of course, throughout each segment of your audiences. And so 40% of your videos were watched until 25%. It's something to keep in mind, of course, as we think about those mid-roll ads or end of video ads. And so something to keep in mind as you're understanding your audience segments. If we continue to scroll down, what we'll see here is your video content having a positive impact on your reader engagement? So what we look at is overall performance in comparison to mobile and desktop and tablet, which we're able to toggle through. Overall performance, what we're looking at here is users who have seen autoplay videos or users who have clicked to start for a video. And then as well as those users who haven't started a video at all. What it'll look through is our average visit length, pages per user, and then visits per reader. So users who have watched a video by clicking start or via autoplay and comparing that data so that you can better understand maybe how your users are choosing to engage with your video content. If we toggle over here to the mobile, we'll be able to see the same exact information, but just based off of mobile versus desktop and tablet. One thing to keep in mind, of course, is that mobile has a tendency to have a shorter visit length than desktop and tablet. One area might be better for your users to be watching videos. All things to keep in mind as you read through and organize this data. If you continue to scroll down, we go into how can I get my readers to start more videos? And so essentially what it's showing us here is 10% of your readers have started a video across your site. And there are 4 different pieces of information that we look at when we're pulling all this content. So video player presence, video player location, player start type, and video content recirculation, which is shown here in this graph. And so again, what it's showing you is the differences between mobile versus desktop and tablet to better understand where those videos are being played and how they're being played. And so what it'll show you is like how many readers a player is loading across their visits, who are scrolling past your pages. Is your video player above the fold or below the fold? Something to keep in mind as you continue to work through all of this. Your click to play rates versus your your autoplay rates, and then your video content recirculation. And so how many videos per user based off of mobile and tablet. And then when you come over here to the left-hand side, we'll see that top line insight again. So more readers should be exposed to video player and content to maximize video starts. As we continue to scroll down, we get into how can I get my readers to complete more videos? 66% of your video users have completed a video across their visits on your site. Interesting. We'll continue down to understand that video consumption behavior. And so it can vastly differ per device and traffic source. So we wanted to break that down, show you where exactly it's coming from. And so what we'll see here on the graph is the blue indicates your mobile average watch time, which is 25%. 54% of your videos were watched until 25%. And then we'll look at average watch time for desktop and mobile, and it'll say 80% of these videos were watched until 25%. So better understanding how users are engaging on the different platforms. And then if we take a look here on the right-hand side, it will bring you to our traffic sources. And so, for example, #1 traffic source is Google search. So video starts are 65.7% understanding those traffic sources, how to parse through them, where users are coming from, will help you understand how you potentially can engage better with your video content. That concludes the information here on our video. And if I didn't forget anything, Val will keep me honest, but I do believe we'll be heading into our question and answer session now to begin.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nicole and Val, for all of that great content. We're going to go ahead and start answering some questions from the audience. So if you've already submitted a question, we'll put it up here and have Nicole and Val answer. If you haven't submitted a question, feel free to go ahead and submit one now. And I'll let you guys get to it.
Awesome. Thanks, Gigi.
All right.
Awesome. So our first question here is, how is the ad revenue per user calculated?
So I can take this one. So if you have a GA360 account connected with your Google Ad Manager account, we'll automatically calculate this ad revenue per user. We'll be able to identify how much revenue you get for each audience segment and calculate this output. If you don't have GA360 and you have GA actually, you just need to go to the settings tab. So I'm going to share my screen, show you very quickly how it looks like. And all you have to do is to go to the settings tab and put an average CPM. So for example, $5 average CPM, and all the data will be updated here in the whole report. So it's still valuable, and you will still get an understanding of value for each audience segment.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Do you recommend a hosting in special to host my website to reach better results?
So if you're talking about the type of Google accounts and the type of setup you need in your GA to access or report the best way, what I would recommend is just to have one GA view to combine your whole site. So you want to have a GA tag on all your pages, on your article page, on your home page, on your category page, but also on your subscription funnel, right? Your subscription landing page, your checkout flow, you want your tags everywhere. So in an ideal world, you would have that Google Analytics tags on your whole site, and this will be the GA view, and you will select that GA view in NCI to get the full picture.
Awesome. Thanks, Val. Will NCI tag work with Google Tag Manager?
That's a good question. So I'm sure, actually, I think you're referring to NTG, News Tagging Guide. So yes, it works with Google Tag Manager. Actually, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to show you very quickly how it looks like. So this is News Tagging Guide. I'm going to do a quick demo there to answer your question. So you will access that tool once again on our landing page, Data Tools landing page. 3 steps. So first, you select the type of analytics implementation. So gtag.js, analytics.js, or Google Tag Manager and AMP. So in this case, you will select Google Tag Manager. You will put your Google Analytics account ID. So I'm going to put a fake one there. And here you will select the modules you're interested in. So for example, video analytics. And automatically you can copy paste that code for your Google Tag Manager. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. The NCI tag looks like JavaScript. Are there any ways to make the new NCI tag work on AMP?
So just to clarify, NCI, you can use NCI without any specific tag. You can just connect with your GA account and you will access to our reports. If you want to access specific insight within NCI, you will need to use News Tagging Guide, the tool I will just show you. For the JavaScript, so what's actually there in NTG is a piece of code, the JavaScript has to copy paste for specific behavior. Like if you want to track newsletter sign up, you need to implement that code on your site. Now, does it work with AMP? Yes. In the live demo I just shared with you, you can either select Google Tag Manager or AMP, and we're going to give you a tag for AMP as well for those behaviors.
Awesome. Thanks for clarifying that piece, Al. Can I access NCI via Google Analytics even if I am not the primary account user?
So all you need to do to access NCI is to have your email address associated with your Google Analytics account. you need to have the lowest level of access. So I think it's read and analyze.
Yeah.
You don't need to have admin access or collaborative access. It's just simple access of read and analyze. And you'll be able to see in that drop-down button your Kubernetes view and just select it. Because it's technically just a view of your GA data into a more like a user-friendly way for news publishers.
Great. Why are tablet and desktop in the same category in the reader engagement section? I'm curious as to why tablet is not in a mobile category.
I can start answering that question. Nicole, if you have other thoughts, let me know. So on our side, it's just a question of the size of the screen. We believe that the size of the screen for the tablet is closer to desktop. And because of this, the UX recommendation will be closer to desktop than mobile. So that's why we prefer to push it into desktop. And I will need to check what's being done on GA, but usually we try to stay close to GA. But just for the sake of our analysis in our framework, it makes sense just to group desktop and tablet together because usually the stats, the conversion rates are pretty close to each other. Tablet users tend to behave like desktop users from a conversion rate point of view.
Exactly, yes. That's all I was going to say as well.
Perfect.
Why is NCI not using the default trigger define in GTM?
So we are using actually the default. If you have implemented GA via GTM, we are using this. So once again, you can just connect with your GA account and get access to the reports. If you want to access specific insights, like on newsletter signups, on social sharing, etc., you will need to implement those additional NTG tags within GTM to access this data so that it's easier for us.
Great. All right. Within Insights page load speed recommendation, it says 50% abandon if a site takes longer than 3 seconds to load. Is Insights tracking specifically for my site or generic?
So in the report, what we'll do is we'll automatically pull your average page load time on mobile based on your GA data. So in your GA account, you have access actually to page load time data. So we're going to pull that data just for mobile, and we're going to tell you the average page speed for your site. Now, if your question is around the percentage of abandonment for your specific site, we don't have that kind of data. What we can tell you is if your page speed is high or low compared to the average, and based on that, you should be optimizing or not your page speed. The page speed recommendation on the first page will appear only if you have a page speed that is pretty high compared to the cohort.
Awesome. Yes, and yeah, exactly. Perfect. Thanks, Val. Okay. Does News Consumer Insights work with the free version of Google Analytics? I can take this. So yes, it does work with the free version of Google Analytics. And so you don't need to worry about having the 360. As we had kind of mentioned throughout the report, that will potentially add in ad revenue per user, but that's also something that you can calculate yourself. And so this should work for any account that has Google Analytics, that has that tag on your page.
Great.
Is News Consumer Insights relevant for publishers outside the news industry? I can take this one too, Val. Yes. The tool is called News Consumer Insights, but it is absolutely relevant for any type of publisher that would potentially be looking for any insights that we just reviewed over the last hour. And so I would highly recommend using the tool and looking at the analytics data, regardless of whether or not you are a news publisher.
Yeah, if you are even if you consider yourself as a broadcaster, it kind of makes sense to also use the tool. At the end of the day, you're publishing content like a news publisher. So as soon as you're publishing content and you have this idea of getting users back to your site, that funnel approach makes a lot of sense. So you should use that funnel approach and implement those recommendations on audience development to get users down the funnel.
Awesome. GA does have a social plugins report. Does NCI take advantage of that, or do I need to define a new tag for NCI?
So to answer your question is yes, GA has that social plugin reports. To be able to have the social sharing data in NCI, there is a specific taxonomy that you need to use for those events. And those are the taxonomy from NTG. So we are only keeping the taxonomy from NTG to be able to pull data. So technically, in your case, if you're already tracking social sharing via the social plugin reports, you should change your taxonomy. Now, the fact that you're already tracking social sharing in your Google Analytics account, I think that's good enough. You wouldn't need to go beyond. The added value of using our taxonomy in NCI report wouldn't be that high. It's already great that you're actually tracking in GA those social sharing.
Great.
Awesome. I'm not seeing any additional questions come in, but if anybody does have extra questions, feel free to post it and we'll do our best to answer via comment after the training. Additionally, if you're watching on demand or watching the recording, you can always post questions and we'll try to reply when we can. Thanks, Val and Nicole, for fielding all of those. And you can also refer to the playbook. It's linked in that bottom right corner of this training. So you can refer to that for any extra advice or tips and tricks. So thanks again so much, Val and Nicole. That concludes today's training. If you want to use NCI or News Tagging Guide, you can go ahead and use this quick short link, goo.gle/data tools, and get started with NCI and News Tagging Guide. Thanks again so much for joining. Please leave any feedback on this session in the feedback form and stay tuned for more upcoming events. We'll have one on RCI or real-time content insights in the next few weeks. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great day and stay safe. And thanks so much, Nicole and Val.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. Take care.